Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I'm going to be talking about, is it time for the influencers and YouTubers like me to start cashing in? Because I've noticed a trend lately with a lot of YouTubers and people who have been in this space a little while, and now they're starting to kind of change what they're doing in the space, or completely doing different things. And I think it's driven a little bit by a few factors. One, the economy. Two, the race to get sponsors to cash in on the hobby. That window is getting shorter. So that's what I want to talk about today. Before we do that, I want to give a few updates. Again, about 10 days away from my 2-year anniversary. I'm feeling good that I'll probably go live on some point on that day, for the first time in a while. I don't know, I might try to get some folks on the channel with me, who knows. Two, I just got these in, the first Cards and Comics, holders that I've got branded now. So, got a hat. Got some Cards and Comics swag now. And if you've been on my Instagram, you saw I posted some cards today. Some cool cards too. I posted a pirate card, George Gibson E96, and a King Griffey Jr. Bowman's Best refractor numbered out of 400. So, a 1999. So, cards I find incredibly cool. But some of the folks, they may not find quite as cool. I'm gonna move my mic up a little bit. I'm sorry if you hear some background noise. I got a fan going here. I'm in the room of doom downstairs, and so there's only so much I can do to block the noise. I guess I could go upstairs, but I kind of like the ambiance of the doom room here. Everything's blackened out, and it's just me and you guys talking about cards. Now, so when I first noticed it, was actually, honestly, it was a video from She Collects, but I didn't put kind of the story together as it was kind of unfolding. But when I saw Dakotas, video about him coming back and his new focus, and I'll let him talk about what his new focus is.
What I've been thinking on and chewing on is, how do we get to a community where that's something that we can do? How do we get to a community where we talk about potential flips and we support it with data, right? And we have good ideas and we spitball them back and forth and we talk each other down and up and all this sorts of things, right? And that's where we're getting to, is that we are launching a private Discord behind a Patreon.
So there we go. We're launching a private Discord behind a Patreon, and so what this means is just it's going to be a paywall, right? So that's one way to try and, monetize a little bit the hobby for yourself. And again, I'm going to go on record here saying I don't mind anyone making money. So this isn't like a diss on content creators for making money. What it is that it does show that the end game, in my opinion, is approaching. I saw where I believe Bleacher Sports did this thing about how the National is not going to be great this year. A lot of people are trying to sell their tickets on blowout. There is this general lack of urgency due to cost. The fact that pricing is down. So if you're going to go there to sell, you're going to lose money. Dealers feel like they're under pressure to make money, to recoup some losses, and so they're going to be less likely to maybe trade at this National. And having cash is king, and obviously right now cash isn't quite as flowing. So there's a lot of factors leading to some negativity, and I feel like all that would go into this idea that if you started YouTube or wanted to make a platform and then launch into something else using that platform, that window is closing, I think, for some folks, because and here's the reasons why. I'm going to go through, but just going on the Dakota thing for a second. Obviously I went to his his Patreon, and it explains, what the paywalls are. So there's 2 levels and all that. And it goes into details, what you got here, what you're going to get. And it feels like he's got 4 patrons right now. So, yeah, so, I think that is, new for him. So hopefully it goes well for him, because I feel like, these kind of things are how people stay involved in the hobby. And I don't, this isn't like something I'm going to do, because I just don't have enough time or effort to do something like this. So I congratulate him for being so, I call it entrepreneurial. But this is the kind of thing that does 2 things. One is, as we go further into this video, I'll talk about it, around the idea of credibility. So, honestly, when you charge money, or you do things behind closed doors, so to speak, behind paywalls, no matter what you do, no matter how honest and open you are, and I think Dakota's a nice guy. I've never had a bad interaction with him, so I don't have any reason to believe it's going to be anything bad. It's just there's going to be always questions, and people are going to wonder what's happening, right? And it just opens up that opens up yourself, and opens up whatever you're doing under some sort of cloud of speculation around why do you need to charge money, why do you need to go behind a paywall. And I think that is something that you just have to, as a creator, and with the YouTube environment, you either have to go in that direction 100%, or be one of these folks who just does this for fun, and you don't try to monetize. So, and I think that is where we're going to see a huge divide in the hobby pretty soon around content creators. Is, I think you're going to see a lot of the bigger content creators go for monetization, go for a way to turn this into more lucrative money, because that percentage of the pie is getting smaller and smaller, and everyone has to kind of make plays. And the way they're doing it is either through sponsorship, and or something like this. Now, the one thing about sponsorship, and that's going to be leading to the next video, is the sponsorship side is going to be tough. And I think what you're going to find is companies are going to be very selective, but the idea of hiring someone who's an influencer is going to be very selective, and you're only going to have a few chances at it. And so if you go into the next video, which is She Collects, where she goes into a video where she gets, she's quitting her job in tech and going to work for Collectors Universe, and she kind of talks about it here for a second.
After chatting with the leadership, I gained a lot of confidence that this will be an extremely fun ride, where we are going to shape how the industry operates, at least from the ecosystem level. And being able to bring my passion onto the table as a leader also sounded very exciting.
So I think this is even more interesting. So, Dakota's doing it through, kind of entrepreneurial, almost creating a business. And then She Collects, what she's doing is basically going to work for a company, Collectors Universe. And, she talks about a lot in this video, sharing her passion and working from the inside out. Now, this is even more fraught with, conflict of interest, because she says in this video that she's going to continue to be an independent YouTuber, with a disclaimer about, her thoughts aren't reflective of Collectors Universe and their thoughts. And I feel like that's immediately going to be typical, because I work obviously for corporations, and I also work sort of in the legal area, not in this specifically in this area, but understanding what the requirements are from a non-disclosure, and what things you shouldn't talk about. And I feel like if PSA is such the alpha and omega in the hobby, and therefore you can't say anything negative about the alpha and omega, because she talks about, well, I can criticize, but you really can't. Not in the way that me or someone else could criticize, because we could get up and say, PSA sucks, They're doing a terrible job. These people are not providing the value that you paid for, and we would be fine. But she can't. Not in those words. Maybe she can do it in a way that implies it, but it's walking a very tight rope. And if that's your sole source of income, or one of your main sources of income, you definitely don't want to screw that up, for her. And so I feel like it's going to affect her ability to give content about the entire hobby. Now, I will say that, I've seen a lot of her videos, and she's not very controversial. She even talks about the fact that she stays away from subjects where she has to speculate or provide her own opinion that's not 100%, built on fact. So that's a two-edged sword. One is people want opinions, especially when you're on a channel or on YouTube. You want to hear what your actual thoughts are. So if you're going to be that kind of vanilla, then maybe this doesn't hurt as bad. But it still creates this issue when, let's say PSA does something horrible, like another, trimming scandal or something else, if she doesn't comment on it, that's just going to be seen as, covering up or helping, make it, where, some influencer in the hobby is just overlooking it because they're paid by Collectors Universe. So that's just tough. And I think that's what we're getting to is in the hobby, if you're in this space, you started out as an influencer, now you're paid directly as an employee, you cannot have the same level of freedom to discuss things because it's just not reality. That's just not how the world works. So it does limit her on what she can discuss. And so I do feel like that makes her seem less as an independent YouTuber or, personality as it is a paid employee who talks about the hobby. So, but, the thing is if that's cool with her, then that's awesome. Then that's what she wants. But it's going to make people view her channel differently. And I think that's, again, that's going to be the progression as people in the hobby, and I think of people like Mojo Sports, Sasha T, they're all, in my opinion, angling for something bigger and more lucrative from a monetization perspective. And she did it through by, getting a job, which is great. And she feels very happy about it. So I'm really excited for her. But it's definitely going to change people's opinion about her content and what she can and can't talk about. The next one that I'll talk about, and again, as another example, is Sports Card Nonsense. So this is Mike Giuseppe and his group, which, he had Geo Breaks, which, breaking cards. Then he did Sports Card Nonsense, which is a podcast, then which is carried by The Ringer, which is basically a really big, Bill Simmons, it's his, podcast group. So pretty big. The Ringer has a huge, footprint. He's on Spotify. So like, he has probably one of the biggest platforms, to do something with. And outside of YouTube, they're on YouTube as well, but they're not really huge on YouTube. They're more on this, Ringer podcast, Spotify area. And, they created this Sports Card Live, app, where you can go and break, so it's a new version of breaking and buying and selling cards through this app. So he's monetizing, through an entrepreneurial way, which is fine. But again, he's also, Sports Card Nonsense is also sponsored by SGC. So if you go onto, any of their podcasts, they're heavily pro SGC. So again, there's so many conflicts of interest from this area that, obviously, they're not afraid to get sponsors, to start their own direct businesses competing with other businesses, and basically, they're not really interested in being kind of like a small time influencer. They want to be definitely the number one. In fact, they just had a podcast today talking about they want to be voted podcast of the year. Forget on the at the industry summit. So it's like they're definitely angling to be the biggest podcast and have a website that's going to be the next whatnot. I guess that's sort of how you would explain it. So again, it's definitely showing that they're monetizing, the popularity they have on, let's say, the podcast on YouTube. So they start out as more of an influencer, and trying to take that and monetizing it through all these other events, right? So, it just shows that everyone's doing it a little differently. And again, there's only going to be so many winners and losers. It reminds me a little bit of like the Silicon Valley tech industry days, or the e-com startups, where very few of them survived, but a lot of them got chances and some money. And it feels like that's what's happening. Is you're seeing a lot of sponsorships, probably for a little bit of money. No one's really making a ton of money at it, but it's like they're kind of like seeing which horse finishes first in the race. And in all honesty, I do not really like the Sports Card Nonsense podcast. I mean, I listen to it because I feel like it gives me some content to talk about things, but it's not like my favorite, person I like talking about sports cards. Baseball card, and dealer, investor, that guy. From a talking perspective, I like listening to him a lot more than I do, these guys. So I wish he had actually a bigger platform. But yeah, when you look at, every, everything on this channel, it's a lot of self-promotion and a lot of trying to make money, which, that's what they're about. Again, it's an app on the App Store. So, very entrepreneurial. Supposedly there's a documentary about these guys coming out where they talked a lot about filming a film crew with them. I mean, it feels like, again, I'm just going to complain that like, just like with, King Golden, for some reason, some folks get just an inordinate amount of attention in this hobby, for doing not the most or not having the greatest knowledge or even track record. And, these guys, to me, have gotten the most bang for doing as little as possible, in my opinion. So just not a big fan of these guys, but you can see they're taking all this, and really pushing hard to monetize it. And then Les is just obviously the biggest person who pushes hard and takes anything and tries to turn it into money, which is Logan Paul. He started a new company, Logan Marketplace, where he's fractionalizing assets into tokens. And this is the funniest part of this whole tweet here, is where he just creates valuations like it's real. Like, hey, this is worth 250, this is worth 1.9 million, 1.1 million, whatever it is, whatever. Like, okay, no proof. It's just I put a number out there because I say so. It just shows you like kind of like how modern people treat the hobby. It's just like, well, if King Golden or Logan Paul or someone with a platform says it's $2 million, then it must be $2 million. Just like King Golden said the LeBron triple logo was going to be $6 million. Well, that's what everyone reported, but it didn't sell for that. Just like, okay, I've got an asset and I think it's worth $1.9 million. Prove it. Prove it's actually worth that, or you're just, spouting nonsense. And so that's why I think, and then if you go to look at Market, the actual website, I mean, it's just like, it's all about Logan Paul. And then if you go to About Us and you kind of read a little bit more about it and kind of like how it works, they evaluate an asset, they tokenize it, they create a marketplace, and then you have a community where you can talk about it. It's been done to death, so this isn't like anything new. Some people think it's better than traditional NFTs, and it's just again, it's been done to death. I think we're all trying to make money out of this hobby in different ways. So again, with the National coming up, it's going to be a big bellwether for the health of the marketplace. And again, I've said this in a lot of videos, but going to the National this year is going to have a lot of opportunity if you just look for it. You may have chances to sell or buy or find something rare that you couldn't find, earlier in 2020 to now. It's like, let's take advantage of those opportunities. But like you're seeing in this space, this influencer space, the people who kind of want to make money not from actual buying and selling cards, by just having a platform that they can charge money for whatever. Like, you know, in one case it's for you know, just a community, you know, to talk about cards. One of them is to actually have a job with the company. One person's doing it by creating a platform to buy, sell, and trade and break cards. Another person's to create tokens. But you can see everyone that wants to turn this into something is going to eventually make a play. And so it's going to be very interesting to me to see who else makes a play, tries to make, either gets sponsored by someone big or becomes like a, like the spokesperson for someone or whatever happens, right? You can see a lot of this happening. And then who's going to be left out, right? Not everyone's going to win. That's something that we also have to understand, that not everyone's going to come through this and be sponsored. Like, I kind of view it like myself, right? Like I look at my channel and where I'm at on YouTube, and there's channels that started literally 2 months ago that have 20 videos that have more subscribers than me, right? It's just how it is. Like, I've been on YouTube for almost 2 years with almost 300 videos, and I have people out there with 20 videos and a shaky cam, and they're like 1,200, 1,500 subscribers, and that's just how it works. Like, you cannot predict who's going to win, who's going to lose, whose content's going to be viewed as being great, who's just going to be an also ran. So will Neo do something? Will Flippin' Steve do something? Will Great Curator do something? I don't know, but it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to see who ends up quitting the hobby and turning it into something else. It's just but I feel like this is a year that you're going to see a lot of that movement. So that's what I want to talk about. Hopefully you guys can share in the comments what you're seeing, what you think is going to happen. It's just fun for me to watch because, again, I'm on the sidelines kind of guy. No one's asking me for anything, like no sponsorships, no no appearances. It's just like I do content for fun. So I'm definitely not a person that's going to be involved in any of this. So I'm just here like everyone else, just kind of viewing it from the sidelines. So that's a video, guys. Hope you like it, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.